Welcome to History and Philosophy of American Mass Communications. I'm Dr. Tony Fellow, your instructor for this class. This is the class which I hope you will enjoy as much as I've enjoyed teaching it, and I've been teaching it for 24 years, and I love every aspect of this class. I've seen some of the videos for 24 years, and I still enjoy watching them. This is a class which talks about the history of this country, its politics, and how the press has had an impact on the social and political fabric of the United States of America. You've taken courses in American history and in American politics, but these courses don't emphasize the role that the press played, and what a mighty role it did play in the founding of this nation, the government of this nation, and the economics of this nation. I hope you will enjoy this romp through American history. I look forward to being with you these next 16 weeks. Our objective in this introductory presentation is threefold. To understand why the study of media history is important, to understand what is expected of students, and to understand how media history will be studied. Why should we study history and philosophy of American mass communications? A time existed in America when history was not considered relevant to one's life, let alone one's academic pursuits. Neil Postman, author of Teaching as a Conserving Activity, says that during most of the 1960s and early 1970s, the word that received the heaviest pounding in discourse on education was relevance. During those years, the prevailing opinion was that educational relevance meant that they had a bearing on students' lives in some direct and urgent way. He writes that it followed from this that any topic was relevant that would engage students' wholehearted attention. By that sole virtue was a course deserving of inclusion in the school curriculum. History was usually found not to qualify. It was assumed that since we lived amidst revolutionary conditions, the experience of the past could not have a bearing, an assumption that students daily amplified by displaying a measure of disdain toward events that had not occurred during the lifetime of the Beatles. The title of one article in 1967 was, "Let's Abolish History Courses." In 1989, however, educators began talking about the importance of history and thought it should be the center of American school curriculum. The question is why? Postman perhaps presents the best reason. He writes that the most important contribution schools can make to education is to provide a sense of coherence in studies, that is, a sense of purpose, meaning, and interconnectedness in which is being learned. He argued that the media curriculum is discontinuous in its content, immediate in its gratifications, present-centered and not analytical. The curriculum is not a course of study, but a meaningless hodgepodge of subjects, he says. And what results is a technocrat's idea, a person with no commitment and no point of view, but with plenty of marketable skills. The error of meaning arose. To be educated, Postman says, means to become aware of the origins and growth of knowledge and knowledge systems, to be familiar with the intellectual and creative processes by which the best that has been thought and said has been produced, to learn how to participate in the great conversation, which he called the scent of humanity. History, he says, is in some ways the central discipline. Let's logically follow his argument. Cicero put it, to remain ignorant of things that happened before you were born is to remain a child. But to complete Cicero's thought, what is human life worth unless it is incorporated into the lives of one's ancestors and set in historical context? What does that mean? History is our most potent intellectual means of achieving a raised consciousness. Every subject should be taught as history because it teaches connections. It teaches the world is not created anew each day, that everyone stands on someone else's shoulders. If every subject is taught with a historical dimension, the history teacher would be free to teach what stories are, which is to say hypotheses and theories about why change occurs. This is what I hope to do this semester. If I teach that way, my first hypothesis this semester is studying history is vital for citizens in a democracy because it provides the only avenue we have to reach an understanding of ourselves and of our society in relation to the human condition over time, and of how some things change and others continue. Let's relate our discussions to media. Our nation, our media have undergone tremendous changes. Look at this powerful institution. Media are perhaps the most powerful institutions in our society. They tell us what to wear, what to think, what to eat, and who to vote for, among other things. How did they get to where they are today? How did our nation get to where it is today? Technology has a tremendous importance on media, which in turn has shed tremendous impact on the political, social, moral, and economic fabric of this nation. It was the media, as we will see, that helped bring about the most important revolution in world history, the American Revolution. Thus, as the great teacher and sociologist A.G. Keller once said, "The way to get at the nature of an institution, as of anything else that is alive, is to see how it has grown." The required video that follows will also look, in a fun way, why we should study history. However, there are some other reasons. I have my top 10 reasons why we should study history. Number 10 is you won't graduate. Number 9, you get to spend 15 weeks with me. Can't beat that. You'll be able to impress friends over cocktails one day. And as we previously discussed, to remain ignorant of things that happened before you were born is to remain a child, according to Cicero. Or Abraham Lincoln's saying, "Fellow citizens, we cannot escape history." President Harry Truman said, "The only thing new in the world is the history we don't know." It's been said if we don't know about history, we're doomed to repeat it. According to John Kennedy, who was a former journalist, history is a guide to the future. And Carl Sandburg utters for me what I believe is the most important reason to study history. When a nation goes down or a society perished, one condition may always be found. They forgot where they came from. They lost sight of what had brought them along. And borrowing from the words of Neil Postman, you will be able to participate in the great conversation. In other words, you will truly be educated. When we talk about how we're going to approach history in this course, a little warning, this is really not an easy course, and you're going to have to spend probably a little bit more time than you have in some of your other courses. Simply just reading the chapters is not going to do it. However, the rewards are that you're going to find this pretty interesting, I believe. This country's media history is a lot more interesting than you think. It's full of great characters and wonderful stories. And if you set your mind to it, you're going to learn a lot this semester. By the end of this semester, you should be able to identify philosophers and their ideas colonists drew upon in establishing America's early legal, political, and communication systems. We hear a lot of talk in Washington, D.C. these days from Republicans and Democrats on various issues. But do you really think they understood the philosophy of James Madison and the philosophers he drew upon, and those that John Adams and Thomas Jefferson read? For it is these philosophers and these founding fathers that formed the Constitution of the United States and some of our other great documents that govern this nation. You're going to be able to discuss the role of the press in fomenting the American Revolution and forming the political foundations of American democracy, in particular, the First Amendment. You'll be able to identify the reasons for the transformation of the press from newspapers to the beginning of mass communications in America, and classify the various definitions of sensationalism from the penny press to today. You'll be able to describe the impact that the muckraking journalist had on the rise of public relations as a profession. You'll also be able to explain the development of American film and its impact on the political and social fabric of our nation. You'll be able to discuss radio's development and how it changed American politics and the nation's social habit. In addition, you'll be able to assess TV's development as an entertainment and information source and its impact on the political and social fabric of America. And you'll be able to discuss the development of advertising and its role as America's privileged discourse. And you'll be able to analyze the changing values of journalism and journalists since the nation's inception and their impact on the future of democracy, a very important topic in today's America. And finally, you'll be able to explain the development of the computer, internet, World Wide Web, and other communications technologies and their impact on the social and political fabric of America. And to help us learn the material, we're going to do a number of things. We'll have 3 examinations. We'll have 5 announced quizzes. These are 5 chapter quizzes. which means they will not be on the major 3 examinations. We'll have 7 checkup quizzes, and we'll have 3 coffee house forums, and which you can share your views with your fellow classmates, and we'll play a little History Jeopardy for review. The book for this course is American Media History. As I've told you earlier, I believe history should be taught as stories. And hopefully I've done this in this book, which is used at universities throughout the United States. I hope you find it interesting, and I hope you find it valuable and easy to read. In addition to the text, you will consult the Cal State Fullerton Titanium page for Communications 425. You will see a lot of information here: announcements, the syllabus, grades which will be updated weekly, coffee house forum assignments, at least 2 presentations a week, presentation notes, and all the checkups, quizzes, and examinations. You should begin each week by looking at this week's activities on that assigned week. This will give you a step-by-step guide of what you are to complete that week and when you are to complete it. The second website you should consult is the CengageBrain.com. It includes study guide questions, it includes study guide quizzes, it includes little biographies of the cast of characters you'll come in contact with. Information on how to obtain that page is on the Titanium page. You also must be aware of deadlines. Every Monday at 7 o'clock in the evening, new materials will be released for the next week. I sometimes release 3 weeks in advance for those of you who want to complete the course more rapidly than others. Every Monday at 7 p.m., the new materials will be released, and also at Monday at 7 p.m., all quizzes, examinations, coffee house forums will be due. Please do not ask for extensions. I know all of you are under pressure. All of my students are. They have problems and personal problems at home and family problems. They have work problems, and so you're not unique. Please work in advance. Don't go up to the deadline. Try to complete all your assignments a few days in advance, because there are always technology problems, as you know, and computer problems. And please email me if you have any problems. I'm very happy you're here. I hope you find this course valuable, and I hope you find it interesting. Do you know lawyers have to know the history of their profession? Doctors should know the history of their profession. And we as communications majors should know the history of our profession. Our founding fathers thought it was a very important profession because they included in the First Amendment protections for our profession. We should be honored. I wish you the best in this course, and I look forward to having you here each week.